Wednesday night, we can add that.
So do we need to table the
Table
bills?
the bills, yeah.
I'll make a motion and we table the bills for, till next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table the bills until next meeting for approval. All in favor?
it. Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
I need to table the-
application for zoning permit. Elton wants to put a 12 by 10 addition on his garage, 13 feet tall, next to the northeast corner of his garage. Stick frame and cement with plywood, T111 siding.
We don't have a committee, a zoning committee.
Well, I don't think we need one just for, we still have the zoning rules, we don't need the committee to look at unless one of us wanna look at it. But it looks, your drawing, you said it's
Well,
pretty much the scale is going right off the end of your garage.
yeah, I mean, I'm only using 15%, and there's no setbacks, so I don't know how there could be a problem with it.
Yeah, and as it sits, I mean, all your maintenance and everything is pretty good.
One thing I would like, rather than putting plywood on there, I'd rather just use like rough cut lumber or something. I don't think that'd be a problem. And then I'd paint it up just like the rest, so it'd look good.
Unless somebody else wants to go out there and visually check themselves, and this looks pretty spot on.
Is this in commercial?
No.
But there are setbacks, or are there setbacks?
Well, setbacks are no problem there because it's totally in the middle of the lot.
Okay.
There's,
The issue.
Looks like it's going on the interior side, so it's not really anywhere else.
I don't see how it could be a problem.
Can we not just approve that?
Pardon?
Can we not just approve that?
I think we can.
Okay,
Yeah,
I move that we approve the application.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the application, the zoning application for Elton Kirtley, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Do I ask the zoning question now, or do we wait to the end?
You can ask it now.
Mark Vargas is my name. This is, I think that Mackenzie's deal. Is that not zoned commercial?
No,
I'm
it
kinda
is not.
concerned about that, cause there's gonna be a lot of traffic.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
already seen this.
Okay.
We've
Yeah.
seen it and discussed it, and
I saw it today, so I thought I'd
that's
bring it.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, we need to probably figure out how to get a cease and desist on that.
No, what, first of all, we need to do is, we'll need a deputy to investigate, pictures taken, investigation done. But this is in fact the location it is in, it would be in residential, and he would have to ask for a change of use. And there's a whole procedure for that. So first of all, you start with, let's get an investigation done. Okay? Look into it, and then we'll go from
Can
there.
I look at that? Let me see.
Yeah, we've,
I actually called him today and he did say that he was doing it in Fromberg. He didn't know who I was, I didn't say who I was.
it doesn't have an address or anything
No.
on there,
No.
just his name, Lloyd, and that he's located in Fromberg.
Yep.
But he has to apply for zoning change,
Right.
and there's a whole bunch of steps that we have to go
Okay.
through. And he has not even come down and filled out a permit for an application for business, so
Okay.
no, that's not gonna happen.
I can just say that we will look into that now. Didn't get aware of it.
You have a copy of it?
I think,
I don't know.
did you want a copy of that, Hope,
We'll need just to
or
get it.
John? Okay,
Want me to give it to him?
Please do, thank you.
yeah, we have pictures of it also, Mark, so. Any other discussion on zoning?
The bottom of the meeting part. Should
I'm
we
sorry.
speak to that, or?
Yeah.
Is Bob here?
Is Bob here? Bob McNeely? Okay. There were some questions about his, application for a permit to put a manufactured home up on, Sage Drive. on the corner, and it's just west of, Mr. Miller's house. That permit was, approved by the council, with the provision that he put it on a permanent foundation. He has put that on a permanent foundation. I know it's zoned residential, but 92% of the houses up there are manufactured homes on a permanent foundation. So some of the council.
Shirley, I would
To see it, so-
interject slightly on that, because Tim and I went up and talked to him about this situation, because we didn't feel like it was a permanent foundation. And we were informed by not only the, Mr. McNeely, but also
Contractor.
the contractor that was installing that this was a new type of,
Foundation.
for all intents and purposes, sheeting that qualified as a
With the state, yeah.
with the state
Mhm.
to meet the requirements of the
Right.
board.
Right.
And at that time, we asked the installer, Tim and I, to send us information that stated that,
Okay.
and we have not got that. So I don't think that issue is completely done yet,
Okay.
because
So
I would like
He
to
did say he
see.
would quantify all of those and
Yes,
send them.
he
get
said
them
he was
to
gonna
council.
send us the information that the state had
That would verify.
verified
Okay,
what he installed would qualify as what was required.
Yes.
well, I think it meets the UBC codes, but over the years, the town has not adopted the UBC codes. So we'll have to get with Mr. McNeely and his contractor, we can send them a letter asking for that verification.
Yes.
Was it Magnum Foundations? Do you know?
I can't
I
remember
don't
what
know.
they called
It
it.
looks identical to one my dad did, and they give him an engineering certificate that says it's on a permanent foundation.
Yeah, that's
So he
what we're
should-
looking
So he
for.
should have that.
Yeah, that's what we're looking
They
for. And
give it
if
to
he's
him.
got that, then,
Yeah.
that's all that's required.
Right.
That's what we asked
Yeah.
Sure.
when we approved it back in 16.
Right.
Okay?
So we'll get a letter to, Mr. McNeely to have him send us, verification, certification of that, that it's state approved by the, with the foundation for his house up there. We'll just request a copy of that.
Yeah, we can file it and we'll get.
Any other discussion on zoning? Yeah, we've approved that, zoning permit for Alton. Correspondence, I think we did have this at the last month's meeting, but I don't know if we read it or not. I don't remember having it in our packets at the meeting, but this is from Brenda Cancelauer, former clerk, and she writes to Mayor Miller and all council members, I have sold my home and my last day with the town of Fromberg will be Tuesday, September 18th, 2018. Brenda Cancelauer. And Brenda has sold her home and she is
Gone.
gone, and she is picking up residence in Rapid City, South Dakota.
To be with her grandchild.
Yes, her only one. And we have a letter of resignation from the zoning committee from Mr. Kirtley, and dated 9/18/18. He says, as a member of the zoning committee, I would expect to be able to treat everyone fairly. That is what is good and decent, but that is what good and decent law is all about. As it stands now, the rule of law and the justice that is to stem from it is pushed aside. I cannot with good conscience enforce the zoning ordinances in one situation and ignore them in another. Some will say that this is the way it has always been. But with this administration's lawlessness is on steroids, and if allowed to continue, the town is in grave danger of being overrun by thugs. I will not put my name on any part of this corruption, so I resign from my position to the zoning committee, Alton Kirtley.
Well, I make a motion, we accept Elton's resignation.
A motion to accept?
With the thanks for what you have done.
We have a motion to accept Mr. Christie's resignation and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. Let's see. Mike Ventling was asked to attend our council meeting to give us some reports on hydrant testing for the Fromberg Volunteer Fire Department. Is Mike here? Mike?
Yes, I'm here. I don't have to stand up, I can speak loud enough. As far as the hydrant testing goes, the hydrant testing, what was done by my fire department when I was on the thing, and all we did basically was make sure that the hydrants were flowing. I tried several times to get you as the council to buy us a flow meter and test gauge. They're about $3,000, so that the hydrants can be tested. The hydrants are the town's responsibility.
Yes, I know.
They're not the fire department's. We did flows just to make sure they all flowed and that they all operated. You had two, they all operate, but you have two that won't drain back. Those were the two that were scheduled to be replaced, and then the other stuff hit.
What are those two? Like where at?
One is on Lover's Lane,
Okay.
the other one's on the corner of Carbon, right there on Perkins's corner.
Right.
Those two do not drain. They work, but if I use them as a fire department, I have to make sure I get them drained, because they won't drain back. The weep holes are plugged in them. Back to your water PER, if you guys go back into that, I tried, when we were trying to get the setup, the things going up and going, one of the things that we were trying to set up, Nate and I had started, we were trying to set up was working into a CAD program that we could map out the hydrants and do all the stuff like that. It was in the works, we never could get the appropriate. There's a program out there that does it, but then again, it's an expensive program, so we were trying to fungal a way around it, and we never got that way. But according to the old PER, the water PER that you guys had done, and it was done before I started.
Yeah.
You did the water PER first, then you did the sewer PER.
Mm-hmm.
According to the PER, there was 10 hydrants that needed to be repaired or replaced, and at least 10 new hydrants needed to be installed. Yeah.
So do we know the locations of those hydrants?
It's not in the PER, and Great West Energy could not tell me which hydrants they were.
Okay.
I'm assuming the reason they were talking about repair or replaced was, I believe you have some hydrants that are on 4-inch lines, that have 4-inch stubs on them. That is a no-no. You gotta have a minimum of a 6-inch line.
Right.
Take into mind also the fact that a good portion of your fire hydrants do not have gate valves locked into them.
I don't think any of them do they?
They do.
Where are they located?
They're usually located, they're supposed to be located within about 3 feet of the hydrant. Most of them are located out in the streets. You'll notice there's gate valves out into the streets, and we found them in there. So in that aspect, if you go by the fire standards, you're supposed to have a fire hydrant on every city block, on every corner.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you take into the effect of A Street, where Mr. Grell lives, and Nate and all these guys live, you have a fire hydrant at the top of A Street, and you have a fire hydrant at the bottom of A Street. Which, years ago, the fire department, in one of our grants, we granted enough hose so that we would make sure that we had ample hose to fight anywhere up and
Right.
down, that we had the ample hose to do that.
But you know of only one gate valve in the whole town for the.
No, there's more than one gate valve on each fire hydrant. I mean,
Okay,
there's
because I was
several
under the-
fire hydrants that have
Yeah.
gate valves, but there's quite a few that don't have gate valves.
Okay, so we need to look at that.
Yeah,
also.
and of course, obviously, in order to do that, you have to replace that, to put a gate valve in,
Right,
you gotta shut down, you gotta block off that area, which, using the exercise, the right gate valves and stuff like that, that shouldn't be
a
an
problem though, doing
No.
that, because it would be just, okay. And I think that we were talking about, setting some money aside in the budget to.
At one
purchase,
time, there was supposed to be.
Uh,
At one time
the
back,
way the budget is
few
now,
years
we've broken
ago.
that out into what that actually is gonna be spent for. So
Right.
fire hydrants are in our budget.
well, at one time, there is one hydrant still over there, or there was.
Yeah, but it never happened. They never put money.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, at one time, when we were talking about, when we started going on with the hydrants, there was gonna be set aside so that we could
Mhm.
replace at least 2 fire hydrants a year. which I did the 1 year. The next year we got ready to go. We got the one fire hydrant, or we did have one fire hydrant. It was over there in the shop, so.
So if the council could ask the fire department to kind of give us a short synopsis of the fire hydrants that are direly in need of being replaced, so that we can get them,
Without doing a proper flow test, and I don't have a flow meter. That's the issue. That was the issue we had
do you
with the
have
town.
money in your town budget to get a flow meter?
In my town budget? I don't have a town
Their
budget.
fire budget.
You've got a fire department budget.
That's with the rule board, and stuff like that. That
But
was
it's in
something,
our budget.
that was something that we talked about, before. I talked with, Rich and stuff about too, was the possibility of going in together with the town and the fire department, because the fire department is the one that does most of the flow testing for
Right.
it. Well, I did because I was a city guy and I was the fire chief, so I just did the flow testing with my firemen. And not flow testing, we just made sure the hydrants flowed. Without, to actually know which hydrants are in the worst, the two worst ones in my opinion are the one on Lovers Lane and the one up on Carbon, because they don't drain.
Okay.
In the summer and spring and stuff, that's not a big issue. In the middle of winter, that can be a very big issue, because that's what happened to the fire hydrant at the school. That's why we had to replace the one at the school,
Right.
is it wouldn't drain back.
Well, I know we
And it
replaced,
froze.
what, 3 of them, one at the school, one down here on the corner by the log cabin, and one on, down the end of East River, right?
No, and one in East River, those were done when they put the
When
new
they
tank
put the
system
new
in.
tank, okay.
We put a new one in up in front of Mr. Miller's place up on West River.
Okay, okay. I
When
thought
we
they were
tied
good, I
in,
just wasn't sure.
Burkmose's water and sewer line,
Yeah,
we put
I
a
remember that,
brand new
yeah.
hydrant in there.
Mhm.
Since you're on the fire department, I did watch your budget meeting, and to answer your question, Mr. Stapleton, the money that you guys pay is fire tax money, is a contract that you guys pay to the fire department for fire protection of the town. We are an actual rural fire department.
Right,
There was no city fire department.
right.
And they determined, and it was before me.
We just levy 18 mills for that.
Yeah, it was before me, but they found out that we're our rural fire department, so before this had enacted, the way it was explained to me, it was technically, and not that we would do it, but technically, if we were fighting a fire in town, and we got called to a fire in the county, technically,
leave.
we would have to leave the town and go to the county. Well, when that was presented to the town, they said, well, wait a minute. Well, the citizens in town, me included, us taxpayers, we pay a fire tax. That's where that money comes.
Right,
That you
that's
pay.
actually the 18 mills that we,
Yeah,
Levy
whatever
for
it
the
is,
fire
that you
department.
pay, that's what you pay, and it actually goes to the rural board, it doesn't go to, it actually goes to my rural board. They're the ones who, they own the equipment. The firemen own the building, don't ask me to explain.
has the fire department discussed maybe doing an assessment through the fire department for, per customer, per household in town to, I know Bridger does it, Billings does it, Laurel does it. They bill up each household or each residence so much a year for fire protection.
That's what I thought your taxes, that's what we pay taxes on, don't we?
No, this is over and above the
Oh.
taxes.
I
Yeah,
don't know nothing about that.
we might wanna look into that.
I know nothing about that, and like I said, that basically is on my rural board.
Well, I've been talking to Mr. Cowger, so we'll see what information he comes up with.
And stuff like that.
So if we got you a flow meter, how often would you use it?
Well, it would be used at least once a year, minimal,
Just
Yeah,
to test?
to
just
test your
You,
flows.
you need to
Is-
test them at least once a year.
You do the flows. It's the same thing with the gate valves. We exercise the gate valves too,
Mhm.
except for the 3 that were plugged solid that we couldn't get into. We wanted to do a Vactron, but they were kind of expensive, so it really didn't get, those 3 didn't get exercised, and the 2 that you got buried under pavement. You got one gate valve that's under pavement at Harley and School Street, and you got another gate valve on 1st or 2nd Street.
I think it's on first.
Off East River Street. They were marked for the longest time. That's under the pavement. They got paved over. Other than that, all your gate valves had been exercised on a yearly basis. Your storm sewer, your sewers were, other than the last 2 years, were flushed. Because Nate and I did the flushing. You have an issue on West River Street, but up on top. where your plug is and stuff. And to answer any other questions, I don't know, from what I know of the water system and what I've talked with other guys, when these breaks were happening on your main breaks that are breaking, somehow you're hammering the system. I don't know how,
We're
but you're
we're looking
hammering
at-
the system,
yeah,
and that's
we
what's
looked at that
breaking
already.
those main lines.
And that's why I wanted to ask you another question about that. Because the council was never privy to the specs of that well house when you guys put it in, or when they were proposing to put in the new pump house. Why, do
What
you
new
know
pump house?
if or why not there were never pressure transducers actually put in to
In the actual-
prevent that
In that,
pressure,
there
yeah,
is.
There is.
There's 2 vents in there.
transducers?
Transducers just measure your
They measure your pressure, yeah.
pressure. Yeah, and well 1 does have a pressure deucer on it.
Okay,
It does
okay.
give you the pressure.
So does well too.
I don't know,
Yeah.
well 2 was come online just shortly before I left, so I
Yeah, well,
wasn't
that was the
told.
question that I was.
They do have pressure transducers on.
Okay,
But for some reason, you're hammering, that's what's causing your brakes. Your system is being hammered. I don't know if it's something to do with the pumps when they're kicking on or off, if there's an issue there, whatever, but the lines they're replaced, the lines were replaced in the mid-90s,
yeah, a lot of them are,
okay?
Some of them.
some of
No,
them are, not all of
The
them.
main portion of your main lines were replaced in the 90s.
Yeah.
There is a book in the hall, or it was, and it's got pictures of every streets and all the streets that they were doing on all of the main lines.
Right, and we have that book that, going through that, and like I said, these
Because that's how we
recent,
found a lot of curb stops that we couldn't find.
right, and going through the maps and stuff that they do have the new lines in,
And
some of
as,
those are not accurate, Mike.
as I've told Jeremy and Nate, you can't go off those maps. I argued with Great West for years. Where did you come up with the maps on the drawings? Because the main lines and some of the gate valves that they're showing don't
Not
exist.
there.
Right, exactly, but the lines are not all what they are purported to be either, so,
I know.
yeah, so we'll need to.
There's a lot of stuff like that. I will tell you that you do not have any lead lines in town.
We just uncovered galvanized lead line up on Barlow,
A main line,
It's just galvanized.
galvanized, yeah,
Galvanized.
galvanized, not lead.
not lead, yeah,
Not lead.
galvanized, yeah.
There
And
is-
we do have asbestos cement, but all that is lined, so we don't
Yeah,
have
you don't have
asbestos
asbestos
contamination.
No, you
All
don't.
those asbestos cement lines, those mains are lined, so that we don't worry
It's
about it.
asbestos cement. The only time you get any asbestos contamination or asbestos anything is when you're cutting the line.
Right.
And you should be using water when you're cutting it.
We-
To
and-
keep the dust
yeah,
down.
Yes,
Right.
and plus you have to disinfect it and everything else, so we've done that too, but, yeah, we're still looking at the causes or whatever it might have happened with the lines, but we had 2 breaks, one on First, one on Harley,
I know.
and,
And after those 2 breaks, I made a few phone calls to some older gentlemen asking that have been in the water business and asking them what would cause this. And their first reaction is your lines are being hammered. Somehow your system is being hammered. I don't know if it's when the pumps are kicking on, when they're kicking off. Somehow something's not right and it's hammering your lines. That's what's doing it.
yeah.
Is you're hammering it.
Well, I know I had one person call that was concerned about that, and he kind of brought up the same situation. And my suggestion is, unless you're state certified plumber, licensed, bonded, and insured, then don't make assumptions. But I know that when they did turn the pumps back on, this is not true, Spencer, when they turned the pumps back on, it wasn't a slow, you can't turn them on slowly.
No.
They just boom.
No, that's why you open up every fire hydrant you can.
And we did that. We opened up several fire hydrants.
No, you open up every fire hydrant. From wherever your line break is,
We'll get you
anything below that, and even a couple above that, you open every fire hydrant, both sides, everywhere. You open it up and you kick the pumps on. And actually, you shouldn't kick the pumps on, actually you should do it reverse. You should open up the tank valve
Right, that, I believe that was.
Because if you open up the tank valve first, it'll back bleed the pressure and you can control how fast that water comes in there. And then once it comes in, you fill out your hydrants. Once your hydrants are flowing, you shut everything down and it deadheads into your pump.
Mhm.
Then when you kick your pumps on, you shouldn't have the hammer.
I can almost guarantee that's not the procedure that was followed.
I don't know. I'm just telling you what, in the years of experience that I did, I just know that the only way you're breaking these main lines like you're breaking it is you're hammering that system.
That's what we needed to know.
Okay, this gentleman here has a question.
How, I don't know, but you are.
You good, Mike?
Yep.
Okay.
Aaron
Oh,
King.
hi, Aaron.
Hey, so there's two ways you can hammer it. So you can hammer it by closing your lines when you fix it and compress it down by not opening the valves, even if the pumps are off. Basically, you're decompressing and you're putting in there so the weakest spots are gonna bust. That's where you're finding all these weak spots.
Well, we found
And the other
two,
one
so
is hammering it like Mike has suggested. So I've worked with Spencer for several years, and I just asked him if these are on drives, which they have to be. We can start these in slow, we can set it up and do a ramp up so that they slowly turn on and slowly build pressure so you're not gonna hammer the line.
Well, hopefully it's.
So there's two ways you can hammer them, and that's, I can guarantee that's what happened.
Well, this will be our last, hopefully our last problem.
Jerry Hall.
Jerry?
Sure.
The short is, does the city have any kind of insurance that
Yes,
would pay
we do.
for these? Oh, you do? Oh, good.
But the contractors that we contracted with to do that, are doing it on their own dime. We're not paying for it,
Cool.
so.
I got something for Mike. What's the best way to coordinate with you guys in the fire department and get the burn pit taken care of? Or are we supposed to burn that? Like, just have Jeremy go light it up and just pray for the best and then don't get cut?
Well, usually the
Because, like, I'll buy a piece of beer and let you guys sit down there and just watch it. I mean, just to get it taken care of.
We did it as the town, I did it on the town, and I just took my fire trucks down there
Gotcha.
and stuff like that. If it's something you wanna do, we need to coordinate it.
Right.
We have an issue, I'll have to set up with firemen, because we'll have to try to get as many fire trucks as we can down there, because unfortunately, there's a nice big haystack sitting there.
Yeah,
not
that's
too
what I
far
was gonna say.
off.
There's a little, if the wind blows the wrong way, there's a nightmare.
Exactly, so.
And it's
that's-
starting to pile up.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
So, my suggestion, because of how big it is and everything right now, and as close as we're coming into the season, my suggestion is if you can, hold off until you get a snow,
Gotcha.
4 or 5 inches of snow,
Gotcha.
just to give it the covering, because then it's covered, then the spark,
You'll help us out with that though, huh?
yeah, you need
Well,
that.
yeah, how about as soon as you guys feel that you're comfortable with going into it, just holler. I mean, you can leave a note on my door and I'll make sure Jeremy's there if you need backhoe, whatever, and we'll make sure it all gets taken care of. Because, yeah, pretty soon people are
It
just
don't
gonna
take
be
very
like-
long once it goes off to burn it down, but the problem
Right.
is once you start it, it's gonna go,
It goes for a while.
it'll go for several days,
Mm.
up to a week or better.
Mm.
Can I ask a question of Mike just really quick?
Yeah, Spencer.
Mike, you had commented that some of the fire hydrants are off of 4-inch lines.
Mhm.
Does that spill further into the water mains that are 4-inch lines? Okay.
There's, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, there is no 4-inch mains.
Okay.
All of our mains are at least 6-inch or bigger.
Okay.
But, and this is going off of Great West's PER. They stated that there was fire hydrants with 4-inch stubs they felt, or how they figured it out, I don't know.
That's, would be my
And
question.
I have no
Figure
idea
that
how
out.
they go. And I questioned Great West and they could never give me an answer of which 10 hydrants they said needed to be repaired or replaced.
Okay.
That was the issue we had, because that
Handy
was the ones that we were trying to find out. But it's not in their PER and they
Well, we
couldn't
can
tell me.
certainly get a hold of Chad and them guys and ask them where they got that information, because, I'm kind of wondering if they got that information from the 1996 mapping that HKM did when they,
That could very well be, I don't know.
because on those maps, those city maps that we've got from 96, some of them say 4-inch, some of them say 8-inch, some of them say 10-inch. So we're not really sure, you know.
Your main all the way up East River Street and West River Street should be a 10-inch main.
It is, yeah. And I think it's on First Street is 10-inch too.
Everything else is usually an 8.
And Mike, in your knowledge, that's a single main that goes up to the tank and back, correct? Okay.
That's the only main you got going up to the tank.
Right.
and
that was
back.
part of the
Okay.
Do we have
was
one
put
that-
in a secondary.
The input that goes up, do we have a return that comes back?
Yes, your tank is set up, and I don't have a board to drop. Basically, your tank is set up, your water comes in, and rather than coming back out, it actually comes in and it shoots it around, and
Makes a
it makes a loop so that so your tank is circulating, so it's mixing all the time, and then it comes back out of another line.
Okay, that's,
But it comes out of the other line and goes back into the same main,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It Ys in that
right.
vault right before the tank. There's a Y.
Mhm.
Goes in, comes out.
Okay, so,
Then one of the gate valves is broke
In that tank?
in that
Yeah,
in
it
that vault.
was.
Has
It
been
was something that they didn't have the money to fix. It was
Okay.
brought-
how long has it been that way?
since I've been here. You just
When-
can't shut it off.
It was when you did
It's
this
wide open.
fire hydrant out here.
It's wide open. But in order to do that, the only way to change that thing, you gotta drain the tank.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something that it was a critical
Oh,
issue
well, yeah,
that the former mayor decided he just didn't really wanna do, because in order to do it, you have to drain the tank.
yeah.
Maybe
that's
what my house is hooked to.
You have to
Might
go to
be
the
a
other
good time,
vault.
because everybody's used to being out of water.
You have to go to the other vault and open up that gate valve
Okay.
to drain the tank, to replace that valve. But it was deemed that it wasn't an issue because it was open, it wasn't like.
It
was
seems
closed,
like
it
a
was
lot of
open.
things were deemed not an issue.
Yeah. So,
Well, it was brought before council.
it was brought before council and the council opted not to deal with it at the time.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think we can now.
Bill Bollinger. As a new homeowner in Fromberg, I would like to voice my concern for the fact that I now have a grandmother living here, and I don't blame any of the neglect that has been brought to the attention on the fire hydrants of the council that is sitting now. But I would like to stress my support for the fact that it needs a redo. We need to get on it, because if there are issues that could cause a excuse me, a defective fire hydrant during the winter, there's a whole 2 blocks there. So,
Well, we have problems with several fire hydrants around
Yeah,
town, and we're
but-
looking into that, and hopefully we can get the fire department to cooperate with us and help us get some of that done. But we'll get with the fire department and see what their schedules are for anything. Tammy?
Tammy Taylor, sorry, I have a question for Mike, because he knows his stuff here. My question is does Joliet or does Bridger have a flow meter that you guys could